well, co-host, right. So I need to stop, right. So here is the presentation. I hope you can see it well. Here is, right. Can you see the presentation, right? I thought it could be. Okay. So thank you all. Here is Miguel Lozano, talking from the Institute of Biotechnology and Biomedicine of Cantabria, here belonging to the University of Cantabria, here in a facility, an incubator facility for startup projects. Connecting to my previous, to the previous speakers, I would like to talk about the common steps in the life of a startup project, and of course the common source of funding for each of these steps, right? There are commonly 4 steps in the life cycle of every startup project. That goes to the concept one, follow to the startup, the growth, and the expansion, right? And there are some common aspects that you may know. Officially, the sales of any startup project begins after the startup phase, and you have to a very increased stage in the growth phase, right? To achieve the sales, the increase of these sales, you have some investment, right? And it's the source of this kind of investment to allow this scale of the sales is something that we are going to talk about. And of course, at the beginning of any project, when the project is in the concept stage, there is so many risks that can end in the failure of the project. No, the risks are so different, and many kinds of risks of execution, planning, marketing, and so on. So the first stage is very risky, and your work as an entrepreneur is to manage to get down this risk, right? To manage the risk. So if you manage to lower the risk, you can manage to raise money to increase the sales, right? This is the overview of the stage, right? So this is the most common picture in the life cycle of financing cycling of every startup, right? We can see the revenue versus time, and we have here a red line that represents the revenue of a company. We have 2 parts in these slides. The left part represents the seed capital, the start, the concept at the startup stage that we see before. And in the right side of the slide, we have the growth phase and the expansion, right? The difference, the main difference is that in the left side, the revenue, the red line is negative, as you may see, and in the right side, the red line is positive. So the beginning of any project is a very risky one, because you have to pass over the so-called valley of death, or death valley. It is very risky and describe this period, describe a period that any startup has begun operations, he's operating his business, but he's already not enough income to cover the cost of operating the business. So this is one of the periods that it's more risky in the life of a startup, and it's a high probability to fail, right? So we are going now to see what is the most common source of finance for this seed capital, for seed stage, right? And then we'll see some of the other part focusing in the early stage phase. So at the beginning, you are entrepreneurs, you are an idea, and maybe you have a working prototype that performs this idea into a pre-product, right? So the first that you are that is going to put money in your project or your business is funders. It's you as entrepreneur. Usually the entrepreneurs, the money that they put into the money is usually to cover the cost of legal instruments like the legal constitution of the business or some market research and this kind of things. But you also need some kind of activities that represent some kind of, you have to build this prototype, you maybe run a kind of a project that is usually called some prototype, yeah, and you have money to that. So usually the first people that invest in your company and your family or your friends. That is so-called love money, because they think that the idea could be a great idea, but the main thing is they know you, they trust you, they think you are confident, and of course they think that you are going to be able to transform this first idea into a very good product that could be sold in a market, right? This is the first money that will be income in your company. Another way to raise money in this early stage, in this seed or pre-seed stage, are facilities like accelerators or incubators, right? This kind of facilities offers the entrepreneurs some support in the way of mentorship or some kind of networking that allow you to contact with another entrepreneurs or another network that could support you in another areas, finance, legal, and so on that you need in your product. Also, some of them brings you some office or lab space to realize this kind of prototype or a proof of concept project, right? To convert the idea into something that really works. Some of these facilities will ask you for some equity in exchange of the support. Well, the equity is like the ownership of the company, right? If you have a 10% of equity in a company, you have the 10% of ownership in the company, right? Equity is a term, a finance term, and we'll see in the all the presentation. And well, it's common that certain entrepreneurs that are people who have run another projects and maybe they have some exits from successful projects. Well, they invest their own money in another project that they can leader. So they so-called serial entrepreneurs. So we come from the seed, the seed. You have a prototype, you have a proof of concept, and you have proof that that idea can be converted in a working prototype. And well, you have to produce to convert this prototype in a product that you can sell in the market. So you need to run the company, to build up the company, and to find that is something very important, that is the product market fit, right? You have to find a market to sell your product. So you have big money that the one that family and friends can bring to the project. So here appears one of the most important figures in the rise in this, like a source of finance. That is the angel investors, right? These professionals usually are the first professional investors that could be invest in your company. And the most important thing is that, well, they can invest a very important quantity of amount of capital, but the most important thing is they don't bring only capital, but also they bring you a lot of contacts, a lot of knowledge about the market you are intended to go, a lot of network, and a lot of support, all right? So they are called smart capital. It's very important in this phase when you are already go to the market, you have no sales or you are beginning to sell your products. but the costs are very high, your income is very low, and you have it's very important, the knowledge and the support that this kind of investors allow you to have in your project. These investors usually don't invest alone. They usually invest in groups as a syndicate funding, and usually you can find them in some platforms, online platforms like AngelList or Startup Explore, that connect angel investors with projects that are looking for this kind of investors, right? In the last few years have appeared some internet platforms like crowdfunding, and crowdfunding is another source of funding of this kind of projects, and it's based in there is a lot of people that brings a small amount of money, each of them, and can finance this stage in startup projects, right? There are two types usually of crowdfunding. You have the reward-based crowdfunding, then in exchange of the money you bring to the project, they usually have a regard or a product, so they can become your first customers, right? And there is the one that is based on equity. Equity crowdfunding is just you bring money to this project, and in return you have some equity, right? Of course, successful entrepreneurs, like they can start up their own project, or maybe they can finance or invest in another project that they like. In this case, it's like the same like angel investors, because they have a lot of knowledge of developing this kind of project. That could be a very great advance to be in contact with the entrepreneurs, right? So we have go through the valley of death, and this is to pass through this valley of death is an impressive goal for any startup, right? You have to run the business only with the raised money you have managed to invest in the seed capital phase. Once you arrive to the break-even point is one of the most important goals in the life cycle of any startup. This point is when the total cost of running the company is equal to the income gain for the selling of the product or service in the market. So at that point, you are going to be, your revenue will be positive and you are going to have profits, right? So it's time to grow. This is usually start the growth phase, and you are to look for a very higher amount of capital to manage this growth, right? So there are usually differentiate the early stage and the later stage. We are focused on the early stage, that is more common. Well, the early stage, you have right the break-even point. You have break through this, and well, there are all usually two series: the series E and the series B, the early stage phase. In the series A, you are selling your product ready, and the market, you have found a market for your product or service, and you need to scale this. You need to scale the sales. You need to improve your distribution. You have been improving your business model, but you have to improve also all the canvas model, right? But this is a very risky investment, because today you have proved that, well, there is some market for your product, but you don't have any idea about the volume of that market. So you are going to invest a lot of money in some facilities to scale your production, and you need, but you don't know already if the market is going to buy all your production, right? So this is a very risky investment, and for this kind of relationship, always the venture capital, that is the source of funding in this, usually the common source in this stage, are going to look for a very great amount of equity of your company, right? There are 2 points that are very important in this Series E. One is that for these venture capitals to invest in your company, they need information. So information is crucial, it's critical in this stage because they have to make an informed investment decision, right? So this is made by the so-called that is called all right. This is a process that you have to pass to the venture capitalists, and also it's very important. The previous speaker has told about that you have all the information available to these investors, right? The process is so-called due diligence, and in due diligence, investors will look at your company in every aspect: management team, product development, IP rights, licensing. How do you, from the other seed stage, how do you do it well with your amount of capital? And it's a very complicated process, and it's right. You have to pass through this. The other aspect is the process you have to pass is the evaluation process, right? In this Series A, well, it's a very formal investor procedure. So you have to value your equity because the venture capital will bring you some money, and in return, they are going to look for some equity of the company. Due to that exchange, the valuation process is very important. Why? Because if you evaluate your company with a very high value, right? A very high value implicate that you have to bring in exchange for the money a very low amount of equity. So as an entrepreneur, it's a very good thing that your business will have a overvaluation, right? The other way around, for the venture capital firms, it's very important to have a very undervaluation one, because with a very low valuation for the equal amount of money, they will in return more amount of equity. So that's the deal. You have to reach an agreement at this point, and of course the due diligence everything has to be okay, and it's possible that you will have shareholders, venture capital firms, right? When the Series E is finished, usually you have to continue growing your business, and well, you usually have a very high level of production, and the market you already sell your products is limited. So you have to find another markets, new markets, and usually you go international, right? You go to another countries, another markets, and build a portfolio of products or service that can allow you to grow your business and your income, right? Usually these series are oriented to firms, to international firms that are going international, and well, it's not easy. 1 year ago, many of these firms are US based, but these days in Europe, it's becoming to be more common to find this kind of venture capital firms or VCs, right? So the later stage in the growth stage is oriented to mature companies with revenue in the millions. So if you manage to reach this stage, well, you would be a very successful entrepreneur, sure. But in this stage, usually the entrepreneur mindset will have to change to a very more business managed mindset, right? You have to control the cost control, the income control, the finance is very important. Of course, the team, but the team is a very more professional one that at the beginning of the process is more a entrepreneur mindset instead of a business mindset, right? So this is a very brief resume of all the source of funding that we have talking about, and with all of that, I would like to differentiate about two kinds of sources, right? You have source that is called the debt, and you have source that is called equity. And there are many differences between them, and it's important for you to know, right? The debt one is you go to the bank, you are looking for a loan, and well, you have to know that the bank is not going to be your shareholder, right? Because they bring you the money, but you don't bring them in exchange any equity of your company. In the case of the left side of the slide, in the equity, yes, in exchange of the capital they bring you for the company, you have to bring them some equity, so they are going to become a shareholder, right? So in the case of the debt, the profitability of this loan is based on the repayment of the principal debt plus an interest of this debt, right? In the case of the equity, the profitability is based on the share value. So this is one of the reasons you are to continue growth sales, because if you continue growth sales and optimize the running of the business, you accumulate revenue, you increment the value of the company, and also you increment the value of the shares of the company. In projects like the startup projects, it's not usual that the profits are distributed in the first years, because you are focused on the increment the value of the company, right? Another difference that is very important is when you are looking for a debt, you can ask for a debt for a short or for a long-term debt, right? Because in the short debt is usually to operation cost, and the long term is usually for a structural cost. In the case of equity, it usually are based on the long term, because it's very difficult to implement. The next aspect is the liquidity of the investment, right? The equity in this kind of projects, they has no liquidity, because you will have to sell, right, the equity to recover your investment. But in the case of a debt, it's a very liquidity one, because you have to repay the interest and the principal, and well, you have the money. And of course, the risk involved in two of them is very different also. In the case of the debt, the risk is based on credit risk, because you hope you will be hope to repay the debt, right? But in the case of equity, there is basically a structural risk, because if the business will follow, well, your investment will down to zero, right? So it's very important to be aware of this difference, because you may face them along the life of the project. So that's it. I think is all I have to talk about. And of course, if there's any question, I'm pleased to.
Luis Miguel, just it's not a question, is right. Just to tell our students and our attendants that all the presentations are well connected each to other. What Luis Miguel said, it's very, to me, was very beneficial. I know how incubators and accelerators normally run this kind of a project and this kind of program. When you, I don't know if you agree, Luis Miguel, but when potential startups, they talk or they start to talk with investors, they normally skip all these information because they go immediately to the brilliant idea, to the projects, while what we suggest in Catania is to pass through the evaluation of business model and business plan to be ready to discuss with and to talk with these investors, because otherwise, you know, investors, I've seen investors in 10 seconds, in just 10 seconds to say, thank you, I'm not interested.
Totally agree, totally agree. I think that it's the main difference, the most important difference here is the language. The investors have some kind of language that the students or the scientific ones don't have, right? So it's very important to write this business model, to write this business approach for the students, to allow them to know this kind of language. So knowing this could elevate the probability to talk with an investor and not talk about the idea, because the investors don't want to talk about the idea. They want to talk about the team. They want about the product, the market, the competitors. Another thing that, and usually the entrepreneurs, the first thing, as you said, no, that they talk about is the idea. And of course, it's very important. You say it's a good exercise to write down a business plan or business model and think about them. The language is very important. So, any question? I think the next speaker is Sergio. I don't know if we are in time, right?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So, well, I've been paying attention really closely to Luis Miguel's presentation. I don't have really any PowerPoint because when I was talking about giving this presentation, I was mainly thinking about giving another kind of point of view, and I think that based on what Luis Miguel has been explaining to us in this short presentation, I think that my point of view it's going to be like really different to the common idea of investment of financing a project. Well, I'm going to explain it to you right now, and if Luis Miguel or other person in the presentation wants to make me any question or make any puntualization during my explanation, feel free to do it. Don't worry about stopping me of talking. Well, my name is Sergio. I come from a little startup here in the north of Spain, in Cantabria. The name of the startup is Ciali. And we are mainly focused on developing technology to automate processes in different industries. We have now two main lines of development. One of them is for automating visual inspections processes of quality control in industries such as manufacturing, automotive, and food industry also, and other ones. We use for this our main technology, our main medium to do this kind of automation is using computer vision based on deep learning. And our second line of development, our second line of product is using this same technology, but oriented towards construction. So what we do there is for health and safety. And what we do is control the usage of security equipment from the peoples, from the workers that work around construction sites or any other facility that wants to control the usage of, for example, helmets, safety glasses, masks. During COVID, we have been doing those, and so on. So talking about our financing process and how have we been financing our growth, our product development. We started the startup right in 2018, and we wanted to do a product oriented towards industry based on three main technologies. First of all, machine learning applied to data, computer vision based on deep learning, as I've been explaining to you, that's the one that we have been focusing on, and also design of electronics of different type of sensors and so on. So we thought, okay, we want to make a product oriented towards industry, but we don't know which is the problem that we want to solve. We don't know yet where we want to focus, but we know that we have experience with these three technologies. So what we can do? What we can do is we can start like a little consultancy project. We can start doing consultancy projects to different companies, different factories, different clients, and we can start to learn what their problems are. And when we know what their problems, where their main problems are that we can solve with those technologies, we can start thinking about the product. So what we started doing is looking for clients with those technologies, and we started finding some of what they are now our main clients here in the north of Spain and different parts of Spain. We have been working also with Acciona, that it's a big IBEX 35 company here in Spain, and we found those problems. We found that most of the quality control inspection processes that are made in industry are manual. You require to have personnel that it's only, meaning only, like not high value applied to the line, looking through all the different pieces that you have already produced in your factory, looking for defects, looking for different patterns that you have to take apart from the production line. And we thought, okay, we can automate this. We can make projects. We can help these companies to start gathering data from the images that we can obtain through different kind of cameras in the production line, and then we can automate the process of well, this piece is well produced, this one is not well produced. We can gather all of that data in a big data, I mean in a cloud, where the different important people of the company, like the quality engineers, the operators that are in the line, more of the management people of the company, can look to that data and can obtain different value information that they were not getting before. Because if you have an operator doing this kind of processes, that operator is going to look through the quality inspection control, and then he's going to go to his home, and he's not going to remember, he's not going to take that data that he has been obtaining during his day and make it an asset for the company. So our value proposition is, okay, we can automate the inspection process, and then we can give a new asset to the company, that it's the different images and the inspection processes that we have been making. So increasing the traceability of all of the line for also the clients of our clients. So what does this have to do with any product? Well, what we are working right now is to developing the tools to empower those companies and another consultancies to implement our technology without needing ourselves. So we have been doing consultancy, we have been financing, and here's where I would to talk about the financing process that we have been making. So we have been 3 years long financing our own growth, our own product development through the different projects that we have been making. Okay, so the key here is, okay, we have been validating our own technology, something that Miguel before was talking about, the validation of the business model, the validation of the idea that you want to get to the market. So we have been working hand to hand with the market itself. We have been validating our business model. We have been validating our value proposition, and the market has been buying to us. They gave us money to make those projects, and we took the benefits of those projects and invest that benefit in developing the product. So you don't always need to have an outside investor. You sometimes, and I don't want to say that our case applies to all of the cases, okay? But I think that it's a different point of view, and I want to also know the opinion of Luis Miguel of this kind of point of view later maybe, and make a little conversation, because I think it's really interesting. But our different point of view is, okay, we want to validate all of the things that we need to validate to start creating our own project, our own product, to take it to the market with the market itself. When to finance ourselves with the market itself. So to explain a little bit more about our finances through all of our 3 years of working right now, we started with about 250 euros. We paid we registered our label, Ciali. We bought the server to our website, and we started selling. We started selling all of those projects. We started obtaining money from all of those clients. We started reinvesting it in creating the product. And right now we are in the last phases of our product, in a way that we can start implementing those projects that we do in the factory wall without needing the same amount of hours that we needed before. Because remember that we used to do consultancy to know about the problems of our clients. And for the first semester, for the first quarter of 2022, we want to have ready the first stage of the product, so that our different clients can apply it without needing us. And right now we are finishing several projects in which we have an agreement with our clients that they are going to give us feedback of our product. They are going to help us develop our product, because they are really interested on having that product in the years to come. So they don't need to contact a company like us to make the development of the consultancy project, and they can do it in-house. It is really important for them to sometimes do this kind of projects in-house, so they can know every kind of technology that it's implied, and they can do then the maintenance, because it's really critical for this kind of company to have the production line working 24/7. And if you need the maintenance of an outside company, if you are in the same province, it may be easy, but if you are not, it may be hard. So if the company can do their own maintenance, so that's our goal here. It eases it very much, and it allows them to implement this kind of technology easily without needing high level deep learning, machine learning people. They don't need to have this kind of people working in their organizations, because they have the product that can do it for them. So to finish this brief presentation, and I want you to make some questions if you want, or maybe hear the point of view of Luis Miguel. Resume that we started with little money. We started our financial projects through our financial needs with different projects, and we have been financing our own product with these projects, and we are now right to take the product to the market and start selling it as a product. So that's more or less what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sergio. Yeah, very interesting. Of course, I would like to comment on your presentation. I like it very much, but of course, every project is different from the others, and also it's very important the kind of projects that you are developing. Is very different. This kind of project that is based on technology, IT, or maybe this area, for example, a biotechnology project that the time to develop the project is very different. Is the cost,
Totally.
the resources that you need are very different, and of course the manage, the way to develop these two different projects are totally opposite. But it's I think it's a very good strategy that. Of course, you have to validate your idea in the market. Is the best way to secure that the product that you are developing are going to be sold in the future, and it's something willing to buy. And of course, all projects, there are projects that are profitable, right? But no, all the project needs some investors, some professional investors from outside. Because one thing that I have omitted in my talk is that if some investors came in your company, more or less when time passed, you probably have to sell your company, because the exit of the investor is their profitability, and you will. It's a strategy of investor strategy, right? So if you have the control of your company by assuming the financial steps of the product, by develop the product with customers of future customers oriented to the market, I think it's a very good strategy to control the company and not to have to sell right your equity in the future.
Yeah, I want to make a point, because I don't say that we will not have financing, private investment, because we want to have it. I mean, not right now, because we are financed the development of the product with the projects, but in the future we want to make the growth, the going to Europe with our products, different kind of stages. We think that we will need external finance, but at least we will have the product already tested. We will have the business plan, the business model validated. So we have really in our hands the future of the product of the company, and we can choose the investors better, because we want that money not for developing the product, not for knowing if the product is okay or if it's not okay. We wanted to make it grow. So we will want to have external investment, but we have not had it before, because the strategy that I was commenting. And there is also a say here in Spain, or well, a say between some of the investment world, and it's like, okay, money investment make you go faster, okay? But if you are growing with your previous I don't know, the vision that you want to give to your product, the vision that you want to make to your startup, and you go faster, maybe you go to the wall and you go really bad. But if you are right, it's going to make you triumph really fast. So I think that if you try with the little money as possible, try to find the focus, try to find the real goal, and to have really clear that you have a solution that fits the market, that fits your client, that fits the needs of fixing a problem, and you have people, you have clients that want to pay for that. Investment is it's good. It's really it's better to have in that stage, because you know that you are going to go fast and go right. You don't want to go fast and go wrong, because that's when you fail really bad. And it's not bad to fail, but you have to try to less the risk, as you said in your to make the risk as less as possible, as you said in your presentation. So that's another point that I wanted to comment also. So if anyone has any question of this, Miguel, yeah.
I have a question. Do you think, Sergio, and also same question for Luis, that equity crowdfunding could be a good way for startup to have money in advance and also to pre-validate to validate ex ante the business idea?
Well, I have been related to a project of some friends of me that make it through crowdfunding. So I have been related to Kickstarter projects, like 3 or 4 of them. I have been helping them with the marketing of the projects and so forth. The projects were about tabletop games, RPG games, role-playing games, and I think that, as Luis Miguel said at the beginning of the commenting of my presentation, it all depends on the kind of project that you are working on. So some projects need the investment at the really early stages, because you need to finance a really strong development of technology or development of the project or whatever. Some projects can do it with the strategy that we are following. Not all the projects can do it with the strategy that we are following. And some other projects can use Kickstarter or this kind of platforms of crowdfunding in Indiegogo or whatever, to both validate the idea, and also I've been as I said before, I've been related to this kind of platforms, and most of the time you use it to marketing. So Kickstarter or this kind of crowdfunding pages are more for the marketing that you get if you have a fast growth in the early stages of the campaign, that for financing itself. So because most of the time you have to have already the product really developed, really defined, to go to the Kickstarter to convince the people to pay for you, because some people are already thinking about crowdfunding as in, okay, but I'm going to give you the money bits early. Are you really going to deliver the product, or you're going to run with the money, or you are going to fail on the development of the product? So I think that it depends on the project. Some projects can have this kind of crowdfunding investment, but mostly in the crowdfunding platforms. And if you go right now and you look for some of the projects, you can see that the products are really developed. They have the production, the logistics really defined, and what they are doing is marketing most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I take the point of Rosario that my point of view is that a crowdfunding campaign is likely a market test, because you have a lot of people for a lot of countries, and they can view your product, your service, and if it's interest in your product or service, is a good test, to develop. And also, I think that is a marketing campaign. You are, for the first time in many cases, you are share the information of how your product or your company, and it's a good test for the market attraction that could be in the future. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a very good tool for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And actually, just to give you a feedback, we have 3 startups in Catania, run from 3 former students. They applied successfully through crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, mm-hmm. And after that, they received money from institutional investors. So institutional investors, venture capitalists, they are more propense to invest money into a startup if the startup was previously run an equity crowdfunding project. It's kind of you know, a connection. So they know that you are familiar with how to collect money, so I give you extra money. Okay.
Yeah, at the end of the day, every kind of validation for the project, if it is crowdfunding, if it is product market fit, if it is client market fit, it always helps the investors to kind of perceive that the risk is lower. Because if there is someone else trusting you, if it is your product, if it is your project, if it is your team, it is easier for them to give you money, I think. I don't know. I think that's it's obvious. Okay.
Okay. Any other question from the audience, from the students? So we ask the organizer if we can go ahead with the next presentation. Or yes, okay.
About us, you can go on and you can start the next session now.
Okay, I think it's my turn. I will share my presentation. Would you confirm that you see properly my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm very glad to be here for this session 3 exchanges on entrepreneurship views in the framework of this EUNICE industrial workshop. So my presentation is entitled Innovation, Intellectual and Industrial Property. So first of all, I would like to present myself. So my name is Maryse Demuynck. I'm working at the University of Mons in a department called Administration and Valorization of Research. So we are the TTO of the university. I have a background as a civil engineer in chemistry. And sorry, I see I have the message in the chat, sorry. And I have also a PhD in applied sciences. So previously I worked in a research center as a researcher in the ceramic fields. And today I am in charge of the IP management of the university and mainly the patent portfolio of the university. And I am also in charge of the relations with external partners. So today I will speak about intellectual property. So maybe the question in the audience is, what is this? So we live in a society and an economy based on freedom of copy. But you probably know that there are some barriers against this freedom of copy, and the intellectual property rights are such juridical barriers to this freedom of copy. So in my presentation, I will usually use the term IPR for intellectual property rights. So these rights are finally linked to intellectual creations, and they are divided in two main groups of IPR. You have first the industrial property, so concerning the trademarks, the drawing and designs, the patents, and the plant variety. And you have also on the other side, the artistic and literary property. So the copyrights and related rights, the databases and computer program. And there is also a series of other rights that are usually told intellectual property rights, but they are not really IPR. They are merely useful rights in the framework of intellectual property. They are trade names, business secrets, fixed date, and domain names. So today I will not have the possibility in only 1 hour to give you an overview of all these IPR. I will mainly focus on trademarks, drawing and designs, patents, copyrights, and I will give you a few words concerning the other useful rights. So before starting the presentation and giving some details on these IPRs, I will first show you this very nice example that you can find on the website that's ip.be. It's an example that can show you that finally you have to think about all these IPRs in the framework of your company strategy, in the IP strategy. So here you have the example of a car. You can see that you can have a patent on, for example, on very new and innovative brake system. You can have the trademark, of course, with the name and the logo of the brand. You can have drawing and designs, for example, a 2D drawing for the covering of the car seats. You can have a 3D design for the aeration grille of the car. You have also the domain name, so www.trademark.be. And you can also have a lot of copyrights considerations with publicity photos and the manual, for example. So you have to think on the best way to use your IP rights, and you have also to be aware of the competitors' IPR in order to avoid the conflicts and infringement, for example. So what are the characteristics of the IPRs? First of all, they are usually not tangible. So it's sometimes difficult to think about them and to have an overview of these IPRs. Some of them need to be registered. So you can see in this table that you have to register the trademarks, the drawing and design, the patents, and also the plant variety rights. But for the other one, like copyrights or trade name, for example, you do not have to do a registration. These IPR allow you to have a grant of a monopoly, so a right to prohibit a third party to use your IPR without your authorization. But this monopoly is available on a given territory and for a given period of time, as you will see in the next slides. Another important point is that the IPRs are transferable and thus they are negotiable. So it is really an important part on the strategy of a company. So now I will speak about industrial property, and I will start with the trademarks. So what is a trademark? A trademark is a sign, a distinctive sign, allowing to identify your product or your service from the products or the services of another company. So in order to register your brand as a trademark, you have to check first if your brand is available, if the trademark is available. So you have to do a prior art search. Your trademark must be clear and precise, and it must not be descriptive. For example, if you want to register a trademark for a chocolate, you cannot call your trademark chocolate. It must have the name, otherwise, in that case, it is descriptive. Sometimes you can wonder, why should I file or register a trademark? First of all, usually when you have a brand, you have invested a lot of time and money in this creation, time and money in the design, in the marketing, and so on. So it is interesting to register the trademark in order to distinguish your product, your service from your competitors, and also to build your reputation. It's sometimes interesting to register the trademark in order to create an awareness among your target audience, and also to claim the rights in case of conflicts. Usually, the fact to register the trademark is also more accessible, more affordable than a patent. It's the budget is much lower than for a patent. So on the commercial strategy of the company is much more interesting. So the trademark is an exclusive right that is available for 10 years, renewable indefinitely if it is used. Indeed, it's conditions in order to keep the trademark to use it. So if you cease to use your trademark, it can be stopped by itself. So what are the different kinds of trademarks? You can have what we call a word mark. So it's words, letters, numbers, or other standard characters, like for example here, the name Nike. You can also ask for a figurative mark. So it's a pictogram. Here you have the sign that you recognize that this is the sign for the trademark Nike. You can have the same figurative mark, but with verbal elements. So here you have the name and the logo. You can also have a shape mark. It's a 3D representation of the product in itself or its packaging. So here you can see the picture of a battery, and it's a distinctive shape for this trademark. You can have a shape mark with verbal elements. For example, here the box of the chocolate Toblerone, which is very specific with the name of the chocolate on the box. You can have a position mark. It is characterized by the specific way it is fixed to the product. For example, here the small red line at the back of the shoe. Other kinds of trademarks, a pattern mark with a set of elements repeated in a regular manner. You have here example on the screen. You can have a color that is registered as a trademark, for example, the yellow color of the soap Sweet Salt, but you have also the red color of Coca-Cola, for example. You can have a sound mark, a jingle, a motion mark or a multimedia mark, which is a short video without or with a sound, and also a hologram mark. If you want more information on these different types of trademark, I invite you to have a look to the website of the UIPO. I've put the link at the back of the slide, and you will have some example of these different types of trademarks. Sometimes you can see your trademark refused. So the first reason to have a trademark refused is that the sign is descriptive. I gave you a few minutes ago the example of the chocolate. If your trademark is chocolate, it can be refused. The sign can also be is devoid of distinctive character, so it must be original, and you must have a link with your activity. The sign can also be misleading. For example, if I take again the example of the chocolates, if you sell a trademark, a product which is, for example, a yogurt, and then the name of the trademark is chocolate, is misleading, of course. Another reason for refusal is that the sign can be contrary to public policy or morality. Or the sign can include an emblem of a state or an international organization. Other reasons for refusal are, for example, if the sign is already protected, like if it designates a protected geographical indication, a protected designation of origin, or a traditional specialty guaranteed. Sometimes a trademark can also be refused if the object, if the realization can be protected by another IPR, for example, a plant variety denomination, or if it consists of a shape or another product that is more technical, so it can be, in that case, protected by shape, design, a drawing or design, or a patent. So where do you have to register your trademark? In fact, it depends on your activity. If you have an activity in your country, it is necessary to register the trademark near a national office. So here, for example, in the Benelux, you have to register your trademark near the BOIP, which is the Benelux Office of Intellectual Property. If you have an activity in Europe, you can ask for a European Union trademark and register your trademark near the UIPO. And if you have an international activity, it's necessary to register your trademark near the WIPO, so the World Intellectual Property Organization, and have an international registration. That's it for the trademarks. Now I will speak about the drawing or design. So this specific IPR define the appearance of the products or a part of a product. So it is characterized by the lines, the contours, the colors, the shape, the texture, or of the materials of the product itself or its ornamentation. So what do we hear about with a product? It can be the object in itself, an object manufactured in an industrial or artisanal way, or parts of this product like its packaging, the design, the graphic symbols, or the typography. You can have 2D or 3D designs. In the case of 2D, we say it is a drawing, so it can be fabrics, for example, the covering of a car seat or a wallpaper. And if it is a 3D object, we speak about a design, for example, a handbag, a mobile phone, a toy, and so on. So in that case, it's necessary to register a drawing or a design in order to attract the customers and to build a brand image. It's also interesting to protect your creation and to have the exclusivity or your new design in 2D or 3D. And again, as for the trademarks, it's an affordable budget comparing to other IPR. So the rights that are conferred is an exclusive right with a period of time of 5 years, renewable 4 times. So the maximum protection you can have with a drawing or a design is 25 years. There is some requirements to ask for a drawing or a design. Your creation must be novel. So again, you have to do a prior art search, and it must have an individual character. In the specific case of drawing and design, you can also have some link with other IPRs like copyright. Indeed, you have here a creation, an artistic creation. You can also have a link with patent if your object has a technical effect, or a trademark if you want, for example, to commercialize your drawing or design. Okay. Now I go to the part concerning the patents, and this part will be, I think, the main part of my presentation. So what is a patent? A patent is a right that prohibits a third party to commercial your invention without your authorization. By a commercial use, we can here produce, market, use, import, and export the invention. A patent is an exclusive right on an invention for a maximum period of time of 20 years. I say a maximum period of time because during the life of the patent, you will have to pay some fees in order to keep the patent in force. If you cease to pay these fees, the patent become abandoned and is not active. This exclusive right is also available on a specific territory, and it depends here on the procedure you want to pursue in your patent protection. So again here, why file a patent? In that case, it's in order to benefit from a temporary monopoly on your invention, but sometimes it can also be to stimulate the technical or technological innovation in your field. Indeed, when you file a patent, sometimes it has an effect on your competitors, on your activity, and you want to improve the invention and maybe simulate new creation, new technological creation. Who owns the rights? When you ask for a patent, you say that you are the applicant. So usually the applicant is the inventor or the inventors himself or themselves, but sometimes it's the institution that employ the inventors. For example, at the university, when the researchers have new and innovative results, and when we apply for a patent, the applicant is not the inventors, but it's the university. So the ownership of the rights for a patent can change in the life of the patents, because the rights can also be negotiated with a third party, for example, in the framework of license. Now, what are the criteria for patentability? First of all, the invention must have a technical character. So in other words, it must be a technical solution to a technical problem. This is the first criteria for patentability. Secondly, the invention must be new. So that means that you have to do a prior art search as for the other IPR and see if the invention was not already public for the audience. The last criteria is the inventive step. So that means that a person who has enough knowledge in the field should not have found the solution very easily. This is the third criteria, which is sometimes a little bit more difficult to understand. There are some realizations, some creations that are not patentable. For example, the inventions whose the commercial exploitation would be contrary to the human dignity, the public order, or morality. It was the same case for the trademarks, if you remember. The discoveries, the scientific theories, mathematical methods, and the aesthetic creations are not patentable. They are mainly concerned with the copyrights, as well as plans, principles, and methods. For the computer program, usually it's also the copyright, unless they produce an additional technical effects where they are implemented by a computer. In that case, they can be patentable. And the information presentation are also covered by the copyrights. A question we have very often at the university is when to file a patent. The answer could be at the right time, and it's really a question of timing. So you should not file your patent too early, because in that case you can have an insufficiency of description. It's indeed one of the criteria for the patent. So you must describe your invention completely in the text of the patent. So if it is not sufficiently described, it can be a reason for refusal of your text. Not too late, because in that case you have the risk to disclose your invention to the public by, for example, a scientific publication, or you have also the risk that another person, a competitor, can have the same idea as yours and file a patent before you. So at the bottom of the slide, you can see that finally the best way to proceed is to file a patent application, to wait for the publication of this patent, and then start to do scientific publication. It is possible to write a scientific publication after the patent application and before its publication, but you have in that case to mention in your document that you have a patent pending, and you have to be very careful to with the information you can give to other people before the publication of your patent. Now let's have a look to the procedure in the filing of a patent. So when you are doing a research and when you think you have interesting results, innovative results, new results, you can do first a prior art search in order to see if your invention is really new. It is also important to have a look at the valorization opportunities, because patent procedure is very expensive, and you will have to consider the possibility that you have for the valorization of your results. At the university, we also encourage the researcher to write a declaration of invention. So it's a document in which you mention the name of the inventors, a summary of the invention, the problem to be solved and the solution that is proposed in the invention, and so on. When it's an invention realized in co-ownership with other partners, it is also important at that stage to write a co-ownership agreement in order that everybody is aware of its responsibilities in the framework of the patent procedure. And then when you decide to ask for this patent, it is the moment that you start the redaction of the patent application. And here it is very important to ask for the help of a person who is specialized in this field. And this is called a patent attorney. They are lawyer and they know the language that can be used in the patent text. So a patent is built of different parts. You have bibliographic data, you have abstracts, figures, the descriptions, and mainly the claims that define the scope of the legal protection of your invention. So when your patent is written, you can do the patent filing. So that's here on the picture, the T0. So T0 is the priority date of your patent. And this is the start of what we call the priority year. So at that stage, you have to choose the procedure for this first filing. So usually we start the procedure with a national patent, but in some cases you can go directly to a European procedure, for example, or to a PCT. So the PCT is the acronym for Patent Cooperation Treaty, and it corresponds to an international procedure. So during the priority year, as you will see in a second, you will have the possibility to extend the protection. So that's why usually at this stage, we start with a national patent. After 6 months, more or less 6 months, you will receive a search report. So it is not yet an examination in itself. So it's just an evaluation of your text, and it can give you an idea of the patentability of your invention. So you will have in this report a series of documents cited, and there are prior art documents that can be problematic for the patentability of your invention. So you have the opportunity at this stage to think about modification of your claims, for example, in order to have a better text for your patent. After 12 months, you arrive to the end of the priority year. So you have the possibility at this stage to extend the geographical protection of your invention. So during this first year, so I remember what we call the I recall that that's what we call the priority year. You have the possibility to extend and ask for other patents in other countries, and these patents we have the same priority dates. So in other words, you will create a patent family. So you have the possibility to consolidate your file, to extend the protection, and to take into account the information you received in the search report. In the next step of the patent procedure, at about 16 months from the priority date, you will receive an international search report in the case you have filed for a PCT. So here you can also receive information on other documents for the prior art, and you can also see if you can have problem with the patentability of your invention. After 18 months, you will receive a notification of publication. So that means that at that time, at the 18th month, your patent will become available in the patent databases. So between the T0 and the 18th month, your patent is not visible by the public. So it's a sort of black box, and it's only known by you and eventually by your patent attorney. At the 13th month, if you have filed a PCT, you arrive finally at the end of the international protection. So your international protection will stop, and you need to entry in national or regional phase. So for example, if at T0 or after 1 year, if you ask for a PCT, you have now to reduce the protection and choose the region or the countries in which you would like to continue the procedure. So for example, you can ask for a European patent or for a US patent, for example. In the next months, your patent will face some examination in the different countries in which you have asked for a patent. And if you have a lot of chance after a few months, you can have the allowance of your patent, so your patent will be granted, and from that time you can you have a real protection on your invention, and your patent will expire after maximum 20 years if you continue to pay the different fees. Okay, so if you want to have more information on the procedure, and especially related to the schematic view I've given to you here, I've put the link to the website of the Réseau Lieu. So the Réseau Lieu is a network of the different TTOs of the Université, the Walloon University in Belgium, and you can find this interactive memo on the website. Now, a word on the artistic and literary property, and especially on copyrights. So the copyrights have a duration of up to 70 years after the death of the author, or the death of the last co-author if there is a collaborative realization. So sometimes the realization, so the publication, the music, for example, can be by publishers or printers. So the rights are bought by these publishers or printers. If they do not change anything in the original work, nothing changes concerning the copyrights. But if the work is modified, adapted, or reworked, this creates new rights, and so a new copyright that can have a duration of up to 70 years after the death of the new author of the work. So when you are using, for example, photos, pictures, and so on that are protected by a copyright, you have to cite the source of the realization, and sometimes you have to ask to the author the authorization to use it, except if it is in education or in the libraries, archive and museums, parody, quotation, for criticism, news reporting, or private use. In that case, you have only to mention the source of the work. Sometimes on website, you can see the mention all rights reserved. So this can be written if you have not the possibility to identify the author of the realization or of its beneficiaries. So the copyright is divided in two main parts. You have first the moral rights, so it's the paternity and the integrity of the work, but you have also the economic rights. So it means the right of reproduction, distribution, communication to the public, and this part, the economic rights, are transferable to another person. But it is not automatic. It must be proved in writing by a contract with the author and the person who wants to buy these economic rights. There is just an exception in the case of a contract between an employee and an employer, in which you can have a mention that the economic rights are automatically transferred to the employer. Now, I will go to the last part of my presentation concerning the other rights, so and especially the means of proof. So I remember you that these rights are not really IPR. They are rights linked to questions of IP. So you have first the what we call the fixed date. The fixed date is a mean of proof that you can use to demonstrate that you had certain information at a certain date. So as I said, it is not a protection, so it is not an IPR, it is just a kind of registration of information that you have at a certain date. So you can use this fixed dates to prove, for example, that you had some confidential information. You can use it in order to register some information that cannot be registered as IP rights, for example, for the copyright or non-registered design. And you can also use this fixed date for technical information that you do not want to protect, for example, in the case with a patent. So there are different ways to obtain a fixed date. You have first the e-depot that you can ask near the Benelux office of the intellectual property. So it's a legal proof. When you register the e-depot, the BOIP keep a copy of your registration and it keep it secret. It is procedure which is very quick and easy. You can do it online or through a physical envelope that you send to the BOIP. So the standard storage period of this information is 5 years, but you can also ask for a 10 years storage period, and it is renewable. Another way to obtain a fixed date is to ask to a notary to draft a document telling that you had information at a certain date, so they can create this public instrument on your finding. You can also go and see a bailiff that can who can certify your finding and creation and write an official report on it. You can also register the information to near a registration office, so you can have a stamp on your document proving the dates at which you had the information, but there is no storage at this registration office, to the contrary to what you have with the BOIP. And there also exist other ways of obtaining a fixed date, like an escrow, particular for software. So it's a person who is responsible for saving your deposition and checking the content. You can also send a letter to yourself, and you can prove with the date stamp at the post office that you sent this information at a specific date. And you can also keep internal files in your documents with the dates on it. But they are not non-legislative methods, so it's better to use the previous solutions. Now I go to the trade secrets. So the trade secrets are used when a patent or other IP rights are not possible. So it's used in order to keep the invention secret. For the best example for it is the Coca-Cola formula. So you have in that case to have truly secret information. So you have to be sure that it is known by anyone. This information must also have a commercial value. And you have to take reasonable steps to keep your information secret. So you have to, for example, write confidentiality agreements when you speak with your collaborators. In order to speak about trade secrets, you have to make some arrangements to be to keep the information secret. So you have to have physical securing. So you have, for example, to archive your information on a safe and separate manner. You can use digital security systems like passwords, encryption, security systems. You can store your business secrets on a digital safe. I speak about the eDepot previously. And you must also be aware to have agreements with your employees and with your partners through, for example, non-competition clauses, confidentiality clauses, and NDAs, so non-disclosure agreements. So I will go very fast on the domain names. So I suppose that everybody know what is a domain name. So it's an address linked to an IP address that refers to a specific website. It is not, as I said before, an IPR in itself, but it's a tangible property right. So it's also a mean to prove that you have a commercial position, and it's also it depends finally on the strategy of your company and your geographical activity. So, for example, if you have an activity in Europe, it's interesting to buy the domain name ended by .eu. If it is more international, maybe .com, for example. And so you have to think about this when you create your company and when you think about your strategy. So you have also to think about the risk of confusion. So you have to check what is possible for the domain name and have a look at the domain name of your competitors. It's very important. The commercial name, so it's the name under which your company operates or under which your company is known by its audience. So it must be distinctive. You have to be very distinctive from the company of your competitors. It's very important. So it's a right that prohibit others to use the same name, and if there is a risk of confusion, but there is a limited protection on a geographical point of view, for example. That means that if you start an activity as an Italian restaurant, for example, that you call, I don't know, Fun Pizza. If you have another restaurant 3 or 4 kilometers away that have the same name, of course, you can have a risk of confusion between the two activities. But if another restaurant has the same name 300 kilometers away than yours, the risk of confusion is much less important. So that means why I said that there is a geographical limited protection. So it's not an IP rights, but it's essential to other kinds of rights. And the protection starts by the existence of the name. There is no need to register the name of your the commercial name. And in that case, the applicable law is the Trade Practices and Code of Economic Law. So it's very difficult to give you a complete overview of all these IPRs in less than 1 hour. But in conclusion, I would say that when you start an activity, a commercial activity, or when you are doing research, you have to be aware of your IP. You have to pay attention to your IP and the rights that are linked to this IP. So you have to protect your results and to also, in that case, in some cases, to use your intellectual property. This is the case of the trademarks, if you remember. But you have also to be careful of the rights of other person, of your competitors, because you can, in that case, avoid conflicts and infringements. But sometimes it's also interesting to have a look to the IP rights of your competitors, because it also can be a source of collaboration opportunities. So you have to keep in mind that your competitors can innovate and create things that can be interesting for collaborations. So as a very ended conclusion, IP is an important part of a company strategy. And as a last slide, nearly the last slide, this table I think is interesting because it can give you an overview of the different IPRs that you can face off depending on your activity. So you can see that the patents concerns mainly the technical fields, and much less, for example, the art and culture fields or education, behavior sciences and society. You can see that the semiconductors, I didn't speak about the semiconductors, but they mainly concern the sciences and technologies. Drawing and design, it's mainly for art and culture, industrial design, science and technologies, and a little bit economy, trade administration, and law. But on the contrary, when you have a look to copyrights, commercial name, trademarks, and databases law, these are IPRs that can be that you can find in every field of activities. So you have to be aware of this kind of IPRs. Okay, so on this last slide, I give you some useful links. So you have first the website That's IP. So I suppose that you have seen that it was one of my sources for this presentation. So it's an interesting website. You can find some summaries on the different IPRs. You have also a different quiz on these IPRs and some practical examples of SMEs facing questions related to IPR. You have also the link with the Belgian Office for Intellectual Property. You have the link for the UIPO, so mainly for the trademarks at the European level. The European Patent Office with the patents, and on this website you can find the patent database Espacenet, which is a free database of the European Patent Office. You have also the link with to the WIPO, so the World Intellectual Property Organization. And the last one is a link to the website of the Federal Public Service of Economy in Belgium with a guide concerning the IP clauses and contracts. But unfortunately, this guide is only available in French at the moment. So for those of you who can understand French, I recommend highly this link. Okay, so thank you for your attention. If you have any question, don't be shy. I can try to answer the questions in the future. If you have more questions, you have here my email address. Do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Filippo. I don't know whether there are questions from the students or from some other participants. Maybe Filippo.
No, I was impressed because it was very useful, and we will use it in our university for the students. It's an essential step not only during the PhD program but before, as the UNICE program demonstrates, that knowledge about the intellectual property is an essential step, not only in all the fields. And so I was searching on the site that you suggested at the end of your presentation, and I found it for the e-learning very, very useful for our work. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very useful information for the students. And the main purpose of UNICE is not only, of course, the students, is to find common procedures and to improve our own procedures in the different universities in order to set up like best practices and to disseminate these best practices. So thank you really very much for your contribution.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So I don't know whether there are other contributions. I think we slightly modified the program, but I don't think Simone is going to be mad at us. Talking about startup, if we go back just for a while, we had an example of startup presentation, and Simone today will be with us as co-founder of the startup Tobesia, who won, if I'm not wrong, the last year edition of Start Cup at Catania, so that the participants can also have a practical, more than, I mean, all what we said is very practical. I think I would love that the students give us a feedback telling us, well, you told us very practical issues. So here there's a really a practical example of a startup, and I thank you very much, Simone, for presenting this experience to us, this reality to us today. Please, thank you very much, Simone.
Thank you to you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to replace Professor Saverio Latteri, who was unable to be here today. I'm Simone Curcio, co-founder and CTO of Tobesia, and I will introduce you our new business idea. Obesity is a dangerous health condition that must be faced with effective and lasting solution. An obese person has a life expectancy of 10 years less than peer people of normal weight. Often for a person who has to lose 40-50 kilos, diet, exercise, psychotherapy and drugs are not enough. For the reason, bariatric surgery can become the only solution to overcome the disease and to reduce the severe excess weight. Often our lifestyles do not help in organizing every side of our life, such as our relationship with food, workout, and health. Moreover, even when one finds the strength to lose weight, it is not easy not to fall back into bad eating habits. Unfortunately, those bad habits can cause some of the worst diseases of 20th century, such as cancer, diabetes, heart, and breathing disease, and as a consequence, social discrimination. On the other hand, how can you improve your working condition if you are a doctor? Thanks to Tobesia, that changed the relationships between patients and health. The traditional system don't reconcile daily life, and many working commitments with how much necessary to request and taking advantage of quick support and constant to fight obesity. Right from the origin of its business idea, Tobesia starts from the assumption that mobile health is the new healthcare approach in which both healthy citizens and the ones with confirmed pathologies can check their health status in real time at home or at health facilities. Tobesia is willing to respond to the social need of creating a new digital ecosystem in healthcare, starting from the increasing number of people suffering from chronic disease, such as obesity. The solution proposed by Tobesia allows us to accurately respond to the need of implementing social inclusion of the obese, often victims of discrimination. Tobesia is the result of a conversation between Saverio Latteri, the medical doctor, and me, an obese patient. I weighed over 170 kilos and the beginning of my journey, and now I've lost more than half of my initial weight. Our discussion showed all the problems we have encountered in treating obesity. Me, for my part, underlined the difficulty of being followed, of being monitored, and every stage of my journey. Because you think that an obese patient needs the help not only of medicine, but also of world of society, the world of commerce, the world of nutrition, the world of fitness, of personal care. For the doctors, the problem is constantly monitor the path a patient is taking with the possibility to adjust when necessary and validate the goals achieved. Tobesia is a digital ecosystem that improves the interaction between the patient who wants to treat obesity and the team of professionals who follow them. This is the starting point, a cross-fertilization process involving various figures from the academic world, the world of profession, the world of business, and the patient himself.
Simone, sorry to interrupt you. Can I please ask you to put the presentation in presentation?
Oh, yes.
In presentation mode so that we can see it larger.
Okay. It's okay.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. Thanks.
The research location are University of Catania, Department of Medicine and Surgery, clinicized operating unit of bariatric surgery of the Canizzaro Hospital, complex operating unit of general surgery of San Matteo Hospital in Pavia, Market Polytechnical University. The business idea responds to the needs identified, which are motivation, organization, support, and technological innovation. Tobesia is the digital assistant that helps you overcome the obstacles of a tortuous path to recovery. But which are the goals of Tobesia? To provide consistent and continuous support to those who want to fight obesity, with the main goals of placing the patients at the center, ensure the perfect adherence to the therapy, increase social inclusion and disability reduction, also thanks to digitalization process of the doctor-patient's relationship. Tobesia creates value for both the patients and the nature of a professional who have joined. Patients use Tobesia for its comfort because it's safe and fast. Professionals find a new challenge for acquiring patients, a flexible system for managing appointments, and above all, constant monitoring of the patients at every stage of the journey. Technological trend of digital transformation of health are used in Tobesia and are represented by mobile app, big data, IoT, wearable device, and artificial intelligence. The main characteristics of Tobesia are to be always on, meaning that they are always active and available, easy to use, being a simple app with the user interface friendly, powerful, thanks to its features that allow the integrate management of every therapeutic and rehabilitative aspect. For patients, we have designed the therapeutic plan, the management of diet plan, the physical training plan, the physiological support plan, and the sleep monitoring. Professional, on the other hand, will be able to manage their appointment diary, entering treatment plans, dietary plan management, training plan management, result monitoring from a dashboard. Tobesia is designed to obese subjects living in Italy and can also be extended to severely overweight subjects. There are over 23 million overweight people in Italy. There is about 46% of population, 800,000 obese in Sicily. The target audience has been identified through market research and a specific survey on obesity thematic group, and has set a goal of 58,000 users per year by the 50 years of business. In order to stop obesity and overweight, people often refer to specialized doctors or health centers. Alternatively, it's possible to use a technological device through some app. However, these apps are usually used only to keep weight under control and to get tips for proper nutrition to follow in order to avoid obesity. Among the major competitors were identified in MyFitnessPal, Mela Rossa, LifeSum, Lose It, Fat Secret, Unisalute, Mio Dottore, App and Hope. The Tobesia business model is structured of two revenue channels, B2C and B2B. For the B2C channel, we have to choose a freemium recurring business model. The freemium recurring model, union of freemium and premium, is a very popular business model in the digital world. It provides for the existence of two versions of the product, depending on the cost, free version and version premium for a fee. The offer of product service with a basic characteristic aim to push user to try and upgrade to the premium version with additional function or features at later time. Concerning Tobesia, a customer can decide to activate two types of subscriptions. Join the free mode or subscribe monthly in premium mode. The B2B channel involves business subjects with whom affiliation contract will be stipulated. The life size of B2C target patients is about 24 months. The first 12 months during which the user completes his recovery process, and the next 12 months where the user remains to benefit from monitoring and support service in order to consolidate the result achieved. After registering, the user can decide to activate different type of subscription. Join the free mode or subscribe monthly to the premium mode. The cost for paid service for the first 2 years is 0.99 euros for 6 months and 5.99 euros for the first 2 years. The user in addiction, regardless of choosing plan, by paying one fee off, you will be able to take advantage of the following service of team of specialized professional. Similar professional B2B will have an affiliation fee in order to join two platforms. The B2B channel involves a business subject with whom affiliation contract will be stipulated. Financial forecast indicate a steady growth trend that will lead use profit of 722,000 euros in our 50th year of operation. Tubesia relies on a network of professional academics, and also the model of the structure is scalable and allow to export the service to the new cities, to add service complementary to those present, as well as making the business model easily scalable on a chronic disease. Why invest in Tubesia? We will we are growing. We need this money to app development, only online marketing, and customer care. Here are some articles and the local and national press reporting on Tubesia, such the award at Startup Catania 2020 and the podium of the Startup Sicily 2020, and on the recent creation of the university spin-off. The team is composed of specialized doctors who will make up a technical scientific committee and the other subjects dedicated to planning and managerial and administrative management to the platform. That's all.
Thank you very much, Simone, for the very interesting presentation, truly driving us into a practical example of what we heard. So I don't know whether there are questions. Please, please.
Just I wanna add something, because I told at the beginning, and Simone also said the same, that they won the Startup edition last year. And what was interesting is how their business idea evolved through the business plan competition. And that's important for our attendance, for our students. When they submitted their business idea, the idea was selected to go to the next step, but they improved significantly during the second step, the business plan competition, thanks to the assistance of certified public accountants and specialized consultants. So basically through specialized mentoring and coaching. And Simone remember that they changed their business model from the beginning, okay, in order to become more attractive to potential investors, in order to make this platform, more feasible and viable. They changed their business model. This is the effect of coaching and mentoring when, entrepreneurial team have an idea, a business idea, but they evolve over time in less than 1 month, changing completely the business model. And then
it's true. The idea was more different, but was really precious, the work with the tutor, the dottori commercialisti. No?
Certified accountants, yes.
Yes.
Any question from the audience?
Sarah, if I can make a comment, I was impressed not only you are the expert in the field of economics business plan, but as a physician, as a pharmacologist, in past I work in the field of obesity. Obesity is one of the most complex field because the different pharmacological treatments have failed. So it's interesting to see how you change completely the approach and starting from unmet clinical needs and with your proposal. Thank you so much for your contribution.
You're welcome.
Do we have further comments, questions? The unmet needs, it's very interesting. This comes from, of course, studying and evaluating the context. It cannot just come from the idea that Sarah was talking about. The idea is great, but if you don't see what is already there and you don't evaluate the context, it's not gonna be turned into something that can work, of course. Okay, so I guess that if there are no further questions nor comments, I don't know, Rosario, if you want to add something to the discussion or.
No, I mean, just you know, to say that to thank all the attendants, and this morning was really fruitful because different experiences, practical experiences, different point of view, starting with a business idea, passing through business model, all the patents and IP strategies. So this is the technological transfer, you know.
Yeah, definitely. There's a question actually in the chat by Venerando from University of Catania.
From University
asking, yes.
For business idea at University of Catania, Venerando can contact the technological transfer office, Terza Missione, and you can find information on the website of University of Catania. There is specialized people for different fields, for startup, for spin-off, for patents and property rights, intellectual property rights.
Yes, in any case, I will left my email and the email from Irene Manganaro here, if you agree, Gonzalo.
Yes. And
absolutely. And hopefully we'll have a UNICE TTO or office. That would be great to follow the students from the different universities. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all the speakers from today. I think it was really, from my viewpoint, it was very interesting and very stimulating. I acknowledge once again all the speakers and all the participants, and don't forget that the workshop continues tomorrow with the company's presentations. You've been assigned to the different sessions and you should have already received the links. Thank you very much again and have a wonderful day. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.